My name is Margaret Sullivan, but everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 52 years old, and I run a small home care service here in Rockford, Illinois. About 3 weeks ago, something happened that I never thought I'd experience. I got a phone call at my office. The voice on the other end was familiar, but I couldn't quite place it at first. Then it hit me. It was Robert, my ex-husband. We'd been divorced for 20 years. Maggie, is that you? It's Bob. His voice was shaking. That confident, sometimes cold tone I'd known for 15 years was gone. He sounded weak, desperate. I know I have no right to call, but I'm at community hospital, stage 4 lung cancer. The bills are piling up and I don't have anyone else to turn to. Could you maybe help with some of the medical expenses? I sat there in my office chair looking out at the parking lot, and I felt my hand trembling slightly as I held the phone. This man who had taken 15 years of my life, who had stood by while his family used me like unpaid help, who had said nothing when his own mother wrote in her will that I wasn't family. I took a breath. Bob, I'm sorry you're going through this. I really am, but I can't help you. You see, I have to take care of my real family now. My mom and dad are getting older, and they need me. I'm sure you understand. I hung up. My hand was still shaking, but not from sadness, from something else. Relief, maybe. Or just the weight of all those years finally lifting off my shoulders. That phone call took me right back. 35 years back, to be exact. And I realized I needed to tell this story. Not for Bob, not even for me, really, but for anyone out there who's ever felt trapped by the word family, who's ever been told that sacrifice is supposed to be silent, endless, and expected. So let me take you back to when I was 26 years old and thought I knew what love was supposed to look like. It was 1987. Big hair, shoulder pads, and I was working as a receptionist at an insurance company in downtown Rockford. My girlfriend Linda set me up with her cousin's friend, Robert Henderson. Bob was 29, had a steady job as an accountant at a mid-sized manufacturing firm, and seemed nice enough. Our first date was at a Pizza Hut on East State Street. I remember he was polite, a little quiet, but he asked good questions. He seemed interested in what I had to say. By today's standards, that might not sound like much, but back then, I thought it was refreshing. We dated for about 8 months. He wasn't the most romantic guy in the world, no surprise roses or love letters, but he was reliable. He showed up when he said he would. He called when he said he'd call. My parents liked him well enough. About 6 months into dating, Bob mentioned his mother. Hey, so I should probably tell you something. My mom's not doing great health-wise. She's got diabetes and high blood pressure. Her knees are shot. She's been having a hard time getting around. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, I said. That must be really hard on her. On all of you. Yeah. And, well, if things get serious between us, if we end up getting married, I'd probably need to live close to her, maybe even with her. She's alone in that house, and my brother Tom's not really the caregiver type. I remember feeling a little knot in my stomach. Living with your mother-in-law wasn't exactly what I'd pictured for married life, but Bob looked so serious, so concerned. I thought, well, this is what a good son does. He takes care of his mother. That's really good of you, Bob. Family's important. He smiled, genuinely smiled, which he didn't do that often, and squeezed my hand. Thanks for understanding, Maggie. That means a lot. I think you're really special. So that was that. I figured we'd deal with it when the time came. We got engaged in December of 1988. Nothing fancy. He took me to Olive Garden and proposed over tiramisu. I said yes. My parents were happy. His mother seemed pleased enough, though I'd only met her twice by then. My dad, Frank Sullivan, was a machinist at a factory. My mom, Dorothy, worked part-time at the public library. They weren't rich, but they'd been saving for years. When Bob and I got engaged, my dad pulled me aside one evening in their kitchen. Maggie, your mother and I have been putting money away for you. We want to help you kids get started right. We've got about $15,000 saved up. We were thinking you could use it for a down payment on a little house. Nothing fancy, but your own place. I felt tears prick my eyes. $15,000 was a lot of money in 1988. That was years of careful saving, skipped vacations, extra shifts. Dad, that's too much. Nonsense. You're our daughter. We want you to have your own home, a place to build your life. When I told Bob, he seemed grateful but uncomfortable. That's really generous of your folks, Maggie. Really generous. But here's the thing. I think we should move in with my mother. At least for a while. She really needs help, and a house payment on top of everything else would stretch us pretty thin. But my parents want us to have our own place. I know. And that's great. We can use that money later, when we're ready to buy our own house. Right now, though, my mom needs me close. Us. She needs us close. When my parents heard the plan, my dad's face fell. Maggie, are you sure about this? Starting married life in your mother-in-law's house, that can be hard on a couple. It's just temporary, Dad, just until Eleanor's health improves. My dad looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right, honey, but you keep that money in the bank. When you're ready to get your own place, it'll be there. We got married in June of 1980. Small ceremony at St. Michaela. Now, Casada. Mary's church, reception in the church basement with about 75 people. It was a nice day. Simple but nice. I met Eleanor Henderson, my new mother-in-law, properly for the first time at the rehearsal dinner. She was 63 years old, gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, thick glasses, and she walked with a cane. She looked frail. When I went over to hug her, she grabbed my hand with both of hers. Her hands were cold and shaky. Margaret, dear, you're even prettier up close. I'm so glad Robert found you. I've been so alone in that house, you know. It's been very hard. Now that you're joining the family, I'll have help, a woman's touch. You understand. Something about the way she said help made my stomach flip, but I smiled. Of course, Mrs. Henderson. I'll do my best to make you comfortable. Oh, I know you will, dear. I can already tell you have gentle hands. Gentle hands are good for taking care of someone like me. I didn't realize it then, but that was my job interview, and I'd just been hired. Our wedding night was at a Holiday Inn in Schaumburg, a little weekend honeymoon before we moved into Eleanor's house. It should have been romantic. It should have been just about us. But around 10 o'clock at night, Bob got up from the bed. Hey, Maggie, I need to give my mom a quick call. Make sure she took her evening medication. Oh, okay. He was on the phone for 20 minutes. When he came back to bed, he was tense, distracted. Is everything all right? Yeah, she's just having a rough night. Her legs are bothering her. I told her we'd be back tomorrow afternoon. I wanted to say something. I wanted to say, Bob, this is our wedding night. But I didn't. I told myself he was just being a good son. This was temporary. Eleanor's house was a small 3-bedroom ranch in a quiet neighborhood on the northwest side of Rockford. The house had probably been nice in the 60s, but by 1989 it was dated wood paneling, shag carpet, linoleum in the kitchen that was peeling at the edges. Bob and I got the smallest bedroom, barely big enough for a queen bed and a dresser. Eleanor had the master bedroom. Bob's younger brother Tom had the 3rd bedroom, though he was hardly ever there. He worked construction and spent most of his time at his girlfriend's apartment. On our first morning in that house, I woke up at 6:30 a.m. to the sound of Eleanor calling from her room. Robert, are you up? Bob groaned and sat up. Yeah, Ma, I'm up. What do you need? I need help getting to the bathroom, and then I'll need breakfast. My blood sugar's low. Bob looked at me apologetically. Sorry, Maggie. Let me just help her real quick. He left the room. I heard them in the hallway, Eleanor leaning on Bob as he walked her slowly to the bathroom. Then I heard the bathroom door close. I got up and put on my robe. I figured I might as well start breakfast. In the kitchen, I opened the fridge. Not much there, some eggs, a carton of milk that was about to expire, half a loaf of white bread. I scrambled some eggs and made toast. Bob came into the kitchen about 15 minutes later. Mom wants her breakfast in bed. She says it's hard for her to sit at the table this early. Oh, okay. I put the eggs and toast on a plate, poured a glass of orange juice, and brought it into Eleanor's room on a tray. Good morning, Mrs. Henderson. It's Eleanor, dear. We're family now. Oh, this looks lovely. But next time, could you make the eggs a little softer? I have trouble chewing when they're too firm. Of course. I'll remember that. And I'll need you to sit with me while I eat. My hands shake in the morning, and I might need help. So I sat on the edge of her bed and watched her eat. When a piece of egg fell off her fork, I picked it up and fed it to her. It took 30 minutes for her to finish that plate of eggs. By the time I got back to the kitchen, Bob had already eaten and left for work. There was a note on the counter. Thanks for helping, Mom. You're the best. That first week set the pattern for the next 15 years. Every morning, I'd get up at 6:30, help Eleanor to the bathroom, make her breakfast and sit with her while she ate, help her take her medications. She had 6 different prescriptions she needed to take at specific times. Then I'd help her get dressed. After that, I'd do the laundry, clean the house, go grocery shopping, and start preparing lunch. Lunch was at noon sharp. Eleanor wanted it on a tray in her room. Then she'd nap from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and during that time, I could do whatever I wanted. Though usually, I was catching up on chores. At 3 p.m., Eleanor wanted afternoon tea. She'd picked up this habit from watching British shows on PBS. I'd bring her tea and crackers, and we'd sit and talk. Well, she'd talk, I'd listen. Margaret, when I was your age, I managed this entire house by myself. I cooked 3 meals a day for my husband and 2 boys, kept the house spotless, did all the shopping, and I never complained. Women today don't understand what real work is. I'd nod and smile. Dinner was at 6 p.m., right when Bob got home from work. I'd have a full meal ready: meat, potatoes, vegetables, the works. Eleanor insisted on eating at the table for dinner, so I'd help her walk from her room to the dining room, get her settled in her chair with cushions to support her back. After dinner, I'd clean up while Bob helped his mother back to her bedroom. Then I'd need to give Eleanor her evening medications and help her with her physical therapy exercises, leg lifts, ankle rotations. The doctor had said she needed to do them every day to maintain mobility. Those exercises took about 45 minutes. By the time I was done, it was usually 8:30 or 9 p.m. I was exhausted. Bob would already be in our room, watching TV or reading the newspaper. Sometimes he'd say, "Thanks for taking care of Mom today." Sometimes he wouldn't say anything at all. By the end of that first month, I felt like I'd aged 10 years. 3 months into our marriage, I found out I was pregnant. I took the test in the upstairs bathroom of a Walgreens on a Tuesday afternoon, 2 pink lines. I stood there in that fluorescent-lit bathroom, staring at that plastic stick, and I felt a strange mix of emotions. Joy, yes, but also fear. That night, I told Bob while we were getting ready for bed, "Bob, I have something to tell you. I'm pregnant." He looked up from unbuttoning his shirt, surprised. Then a slow smile spread across his face. "Really? Maggie? That's great. Wow. We're going to be parents." He hugged me, and for a moment, everything felt okay. This was our family starting. Our little family. But then, a few days later, Eleanor found out. I'm not sure how. Maybe Bob told her. Maybe she overheard us talking. Either way, she called me into her room one afternoon. "Margaret, come sit down. I want to talk to you about this pregnancy." I sat in the chair next to her bed. "I'm very happy for you and Robert, of course. A grandchild is a blessing. But I need you to understand something. Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean I don't still need care. In fact, I'll need you to be extra careful not to neglect me during this time. Do you understand?" My throat felt tight. "Of course, Eleanor. I'll still take care of you." Good. Because I've seen it happen before. Women get pregnant and suddenly they forget about everyone else. They act like the whole world should revolve around them. But life goes on, Margaret. My needs are still very real. I understand. Good girl. The pregnancy was rough. I had terrible morning sickness for the first 4 months. There were days I could barely get out of bed without feeling like I was going to throw up. But Eleanor's breakfast was still at 7 a.m. sharp. One morning, I was in the bathroom throwing up for the 3rd time when I heard Eleanor calling from her room. Margaret, where are you? I need my breakfast." I wiped my mouth, splashed water on my face, and went to the kitchen. My hands were shaking as I cracked eggs into a pan. Bob had already left for work. Tom was never around. It was just me and Eleanor. I brought the breakfast tray into her room. "You're 10 minutes late. My blood sugar crashes when I don't eat on time." "I'm sorry, Eleanor. I wasn't feeling well." Morning sickness? I had morning sickness with both my boys. You know what I did? I got up anyway. I did what needed to be done. You can't let a little nausea run your life, Margaret. I nodded, my eyes stinging with tears I wouldn't let fall. My mom called one afternoon when I was about 6 months pregnant. "Maggie, honey, how are you feeling? I've been thinking about you. Your dad and I would love to come visit, help you get ready for the baby." "Oh, Mom, that's sweet. But I'm doing okay." "Are you sure? You sound tired." "I'm fine. Eleanor's keeping me busy, but I'm managing." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Maggie, when the baby comes, I want to come help you. You're going to need rest, help with the baby. Let me be there for you." "I don't know, Mom. Eleanor needs a lot of care, and with a newborn, Maggie." My mother's voice was firm now. "You're my daughter. You just had a baby. You need someone taking care of you, not the other way around. I'm coming, and that's final." But it didn't work out that way. I went into labor on a cold February night in 1990. Bob drove me to the hospital, and 12 hours later, we had a baby girl. We named her Sarah. She was beautiful. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Tiny fingers, a little button nose, and when she opened her eyes, they were this deep, dark blue. I held her in my arms, and for the first time in months, I felt purely happy. This was my daughter. My family. Bob was thrilled too, though he made a comment that stuck with me. "A girl. That's great. Mom was hoping for a boy, but I'm sure she'll love Sarah just as much." Why did it matter what Eleanor hoped for? Why was that the first thing he said? The hospital wanted to keep us for 2 days, which was standard back then, but on the second day, Bob came into my room looking stressed. "Maggie, I just got off the phone with Mom. She's not doing well. She says she's been alone for 2 days, and she's in a lot of pain. She needs me, us, to come home." "Bob, the doctor wants me to stay 1 more day. I just had major surgery. I'd had a C-section because Sarah was breech." I know, but Mom really needs help. Maybe you could come home and rest there? I'll help with the baby. The nurse overheard this conversation and stepped in. Mr. Kadabov. Henderson, your wife needs to recover. She shouldn't be doing any heavy lifting or strenuous activity for at least 6 weeks. Bob looked uncomfortable. Of course, I understand. But your mother will have to manage, or you'll need to arrange other care for her. Your wife needs to recover. We went home the next day anyway. My mom showed up at Eleanor's house the day after we got home from the hospital. She came in carrying bags of groceries, a casserole dish, and a look of determination on her face. All right, Maggie, I'm here. You go rest. I'll take care of Sarah and get some food going. Eleanor called from her bedroom. Who's that? Margaret, who's here? It's my mom, Eleanor. She came to help with the baby. Oh, well, tell her I need lunch at noon, and I'll need my medications at 1 o'clock. My mother's face went tight. She looked at me, and I saw the realization dawn in her eyes. She understood, suddenly, what my life had become. Maggie, honey, go lay down. I'll handle everything. My mom stayed for 3 days. She cooked, cleaned, took care of Sarah during the night so I could sleep, and, bless her, she brought Eleanor her meals and medications without a single complaint. On the 3rd day, as she was packing to leave, she pulled me aside in the kitchen. Maggie, I'm worried about you. I'm okay, Mom. No, you're not. You just had a baby. You should be resting, bonding with Sarah, not running around taking care of Eleanor Henderson. It's just for a little while. Bob says her health should improve. My mother looked at me with such sadness. Oh, honey, I don't think it's going to improve, and I'm scared you're going to lose yourself in this house. Mom, I'll be fine. But I wasn't fine. 3 days after my mom left, I was back to my full routine, making Eleanor's breakfast, helping her to the bathroom, doing her exercises. And now, in between all of that, taking care of a newborn. Sarah would cry at 2 a.m., and I'd get up to feed her. Then, at 7 a.m., I'd be making Eleanor's breakfast. By noon, I was so exhausted I could barely stand. Bob helped when he could, but he worked long hours. And when he was home, he was focused on his mother. Maggie, did you give Mom her evening meds? Maggie, Mom says her sheets need changing. Maggie, Mom's calling for you. I started to feel like I wasn't a wife or a mother. I was just a caregiver, a maid. Someone whose only value was in how well I could serve everyone else. When Sarah was 3 months old, my mom called with news. Maggie, your dad and I have been talking. We know things are tight with the baby and all. We want to help. We're going to send you money every month, $1,000. It's to help with Sarah's expenses and, well, to help with Eleanor's care too. We know you're doing a lot. Mom, you don't have to do that. Yes, we do. You're our daughter. We want to help. Just let Bob know it'll be going into your account every month, first of the month. I told Bob that night. He seemed grateful. That's really nice of your parents, Maggie. Really generous. I'll set up a savings account. We'll put that money away every month. That'll add up over time. College fund for Sarah, or a down payment on our own house eventually. That sounds good. It did sound good. At the time, the years started to blur together. Sarah's first birthday. Eleanor wanted a party at the house, but she wanted me to do all the planning, cooking, and cleaning. 20 people came. I spent the entire party running back and forth from the kitchen, refilling plates, cleaning up spills. I barely had time to sit with my daughter as she smashed her face into her first birthday cake. Sarah's second birthday. Same thing. Sarah started preschool when she was 3. I thought maybe I'd have a little more time to myself during those few hours she was in school, but Eleanor's needs had increased. Her diabetes was getting worse. She needed insulin injections now, twice a day. She could barely walk even with the cane. I had to help her with almost everything: bathing, dressing, using the bathroom. One afternoon I was helping Eleanor take a bath. I was kneeling on the bathroom floor washing her back, and I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. I was 31 years old, but I looked 40. Dark circles under my eyes. My hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. I'd gained weight from never having time to exercise or eat properly. I looked tired. So tired. Margaret, you're scrubbing too hard. Be gentle. My skin is sensitive. Sorry, Eleanor. I looked away from the mirror. Sarah started kindergarten in the fall of 1995. She was so excited. She picked out a new backpack, a purple one with a sparkly butterfly on it. She laid out her clothes the night before, a denim jumper and a white turtleneck. Mommy, you're going to come to my first day, right? To walk me to my classroom? Of course, sweetie. I wouldn't miss it. But the night before Sarah's first day of school, Eleanor fell. She tried to get out of bed by herself to use the bathroom, lost her balance, and went down hard on the carpeted floor. Bob and I heard the thud and rushed to her room. She was lying on her side, crying out in pain. My hip! Oh God, my hip! We called 911. The ambulance came and took her to the hospital. Turned out she'd fractured her hip. They did surgery the next morning to put in a pin. I spent that entire day at the hospital with Eleanor. Bob took off work to be there too. Sarah's first day of kindergarten came and went. My mother picked her up from our house, walked her to school, and took pictures. That evening, my mom called me at the hospital. Maggie, Sarah did great today. But she asked for you all day. She kept saying, "Where's Mommy? Why didn't Mommy come?" My eyes filled with tears. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I love her. I will, honey. But Maggie, when are you going to be home? I don't know. Eleanor needs someone here, and your daughter needs her mother. I didn't have an answer for that. Eleanor came home from the hospital 2 weeks later. She needed round-the-clock care now. The doctor recommended home health services, but Eleanor refused. I don't want strangers in my house touching me. Margaret can take care of me. And so I did. For the next year, I essentially became Eleanor's private nurse. I learned how to change bandages, monitor for signs of infection, help her with physical therapy exercises. I spent hours every day in her room. Sarah would come home from school and find me in Eleanor's room. "Mommy, can you play with me?" "Not right now, sweetie. Grandma needs me. Go play in your room." One night I was putting Sarah to bed. She was 6 years old. She looked up at me with those big blue eyes and asked, "Mommy, why do you always have to be with Grandma Eleanor? Don't you want to be with me?" My heart broke. I pulled her into a hug. "Oh, baby, of course I want to be with you. I love you so much. Grandma's just sick, and she needs a lot of help right now. Is she ever going to get better?" I didn't know how to answer that, so I just kissed her forehead and said, "We'll see, sweetheart. We'll see." Sarah was in second grade when Bob's brother Tom got married. It was a big event. Tom's fiancée Jennifer came from a well-off family, and they were having a big church wedding followed by a reception at a country club. Eleanor was determined to go, even though she was in a wheelchair by then. On the day of the wedding, I spent 2 hours getting Eleanor ready. I helped her bathe, dried her off, got her dressed in the navy blue dress she'd picked out, did her hair, applied her makeup, the works. Then I got myself ready in 20 minutes, threw on a dress I'd had for years, and barely had time to fix my hair before we had to leave. Bob pushed Eleanor's wheelchair. I walked next to them, carrying Eleanor's purse and medications. At the reception, I spent most of the time making sure Eleanor was comfortable, getting her water, making sure she had food she could eat, taking her to the bathroom, which, in a wheelchair, at a country club, was no small feat. During the toasts, Jennifer's maid of honor said something that stuck with me. "Tom is so lucky to have found Jennifer. And Jennifer, you're joining such a wonderful family. Tom's sister-in-law Maggie has been taking care of their mother Eleanor for years now, which has let Tom focus on building his career and his life. The whole Henderson family is so grateful for Maggie's sacrifice." People clapped. A few people turned to smile at me. I felt my face get hot. Was I supposed to feel honored? Because mostly I just felt seen, finally seen, but also embarrassed that my entire identity had become Eleanor's caregiver. Later during the reception, Eleanor called me over. "Margaret, come here. I want you to meet Jennifer properly." I walked over. Jennifer was glowing in her white wedding dress. "Jennifer, dear, this is Margaret. She's been such a blessing to our family, taking care of me all these years." Jennifer smiled warmly. "It's so nice to finally meet you properly, Maggie. Tom talks about how much you do for Eleanor. That's really special." "Thank you. Congratulations on your wedding." Eleanor reached out and grabbed Jennifer's hand. "Jennifer, you're part of our family now. You're like a daughter to me. Welcome home." I stood there and watched Eleanor hold Jennifer's hand with such warmth, such genuine affection. She'd never said anything like that to me. Not once in all those years. I was still Margaret, still the caregiver, still the help. Jennifer was like a daughter. Sarah turned 13 in February of 2003. She was in 8th grade dealing with all the typical teenage stuff: friends, school stress, figuring out who she was. Eleanor's health had declined further. She'd had a minor stroke the year before, which left her even more dependent on care. I'd been taking care of Eleanor for 14 years at that point. 14 years of my life. I was 40 years old, and I felt like I'd lost myself completely. One evening, Sarah came into the kitchen while I was cleaning up after dinner. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something." "What is it, honey?" "I've been thinking about what I want to do after high school. I think I want to be a nurse." I turned to look at her, surprised. "A nurse? Really?" "Yeah, I've been watching you take care of Grandma Eleanor all these years. I see how hard it is, how much work it takes. And I think someone should be doing that job who actually gets paid for it, you know? Someone who's trained and gets respect for what they do." Her words hit me like a truck. I didn't mean it as a bad thing, Mom. I just mean, I see you. I see how hard you work, and I want to do that kind of work. But I want to do it right, as my job. Does that make sense? I hugged her tight. Yeah, baby, that makes perfect sense. That spring, Eleanor had another stroke. A bigger one this time. She was hospitalized for 3 weeks. I was at the hospital every single day. Bob came when he could, but he was working. Tom and Jennifer visited a few times, but they had their own lives. Tom was managing a construction company by then, and Jennifer was pregnant with their first child. It was mostly me, sitting in that hospital room watching monitors, talking to doctors, helping Eleanor eat when she was strong enough to eat. One afternoon, a doctor pulled me aside. Mrs. Henderson, I want to talk to you about your mother-in-law's prognosis. Okay, she's recovered somewhat from this stroke, but her overall health is declining. The diabetes, the heart condition, the previous strokes, it's all taking a toll. She may have a few more years, but her quality of life is going to continue to decline. You should start thinking about long-term care options. A nursing facility might be. She won't go to a nursing home. She's made that very clear. The doctor nodded slowly. Then you need to prepare yourself. The care requirements are only going to increase. If you're going to continue caring for her at home, you'll need support, home health aides, respite care, something. You can't do this alone. But I was doing it alone. Eleanor came home from the hospital. She was weaker than ever. She could barely speak clearly because of the stroke, but she could still make her needs known. In November of 2003, Eleanor passed away. It happened in her sleep, which the doctor said was a blessing. She went peacefully. I found her that morning when I went in to help her with breakfast. I stood in the doorway of her room, looking at her still form in that bed, and I felt numb. Not sad, not relieved, just empty. I called 911. Then I called Bob at work. Then I sat in the kitchen and stared at the wall until the paramedics arrived. The funeral was 3 days later. The whole Henderson family was there: Tom, Jennifer, Bob's sister Carol, who'd flown in from Arizona, various cousins and extended family. Everyone kept telling me what a wonderful job I'd done. Maggie, you were a saint. Maggie, Eleanor was so lucky to have you. Maggie, you sacrificed so much. You're such a good woman. I smiled and thanked them, and accepted their hugs. For those 3 days, I was busy. Coordinating with the funeral home, preparing food for guests, cleaning the house, making sure everyone was comfortable. On the day after the funeral, everyone had gone home except for immediate family: Bob, Tom, Jennifer, and Carol. A lawyer arrived at the house. Eleanor's lawyer. He'd come to read the will. We all sat in the living room. The lawyer opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. I'm going to read Eleanor Henderson's last will and testament, as she revised it 2 years ago. He began reading. Standard stuff at first: funeral arrangements, specific items going to specific people: Eleanor's wedding ring to Carol, her china to Jennifer. Then he got to the part about property and assets. I leave my house, located at Tendish, to my son Thomas Henderson. I leave my savings accounts totaling approximately $70,000 to $8,000 to my son Thomas Henderson. I leave my life insurance policy with a payout of $50,000 to my son Thomas Henderson. I sat there, confused. What about Bob? What about me? The lawyer continued. I specifically note that my daughter-in-law, Margaret Henderson, is not a blood relative and is therefore not included in this will. She is not to receive any portion of my estate. The room went silent. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The lawyer folded the paper and looked around the room. That concludes the reading of the will. If anyone has questions or wishes to contest, I found my voice. Wait, I'm sorry, can you read that last part again? Which part? The part about me. He glanced down at the paper. It says that Margaret Henderson, as a non-blood relative, is excluded from the estate. Tom shifted uncomfortably. Jennifer wouldn't meet my eyes. Bob sat there, stone-faced. I took care of her for 15 years, I heard myself say. 15 years, every single day. And I'm not even mentioned? Not even a thank you? Carol spoke up, her voice gentle but firm. Maggie, I'm sure Mom appreciated everything you did, but this is her will. This is what she wanted. Tom added, and Maggie, you and Bob lived here rent-free for 15 years. That's not nothing. Rent-free, that word echoed in my head. Rent-free. Like I'd been on vacation for 15 years. Like I hadn't earned my place here. I stood up. My legs felt shaky, but I stood. Excuse me. I need some air. I walked out of that living room out the front door and stood on the porch. My hands were trembling, not from sadness, from rage. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Bob, staring at the ceiling, and all I could think about was that phrase, not a blood relative. Then I remembered something. The money. The money my parents had been sending every month for the past 13 years. $1,000 a month. My mind did the math. That was over $150,000. Bob had said he was putting it in a savings account for Sarah's college, for our future. Where was that money? The next morning, while Bob was at work, I went looking for our financial documents. I found them in a filing cabinet in the spare bedroom, the room that used to be Tom's. I pulled out bank statements, started going through them. The deposits were there, every month, like clockwork. $1,000 from my parents' account to our joint account. But then I saw the withdrawals. Money going out to an account I didn't recognize. Regular transfers. Hundreds, sometimes thousands at a time. I kept digging. Found more statements, more accounts. There was a savings account in Bob's name only. It had about $20,000 in it. There were multiple transfers to something labeled TH Construction Fund. Tom Henderson. Bob had been sending my parents money to Tom's business. I sat there on the floor of that bedroom, surrounded by bank statements, and I felt like the room was spinning. $150,000. My parents had sent us $150,000 over 13 years, thinking it was going toward helping us toward Sarah's future. And Bob had used it to fund his brother's construction business and pad his own savings account. I heard the front door open. Bob was home. I gathered up the statements and walked into the living room. He was taking off his coat. "Bob, we need to talk." He turned, saw the papers in my hand. His face went pale. "What are those?" "Bank statements, 15 years of them. Want to explain to me where my parents' money went?" He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Maggie, I can explain. You told me you were putting that money in savings. You told me it was for Sarah, for us. I did save some of it, and some of it went to Tom's business. He needed startup capital, and I knew that if his business did well, he'd pay me back with interest. It was an investment. It wasn't your money to invest, Bob. It was from my parents. They sent it specifically to help with Sarah and with your mother's care. We all benefited from Tom's business doing well. It's family money, Maggie. Family helping family." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I took care of your mother for 15 years. 15 years, Bob. And your mother wrote in her will that I'm not family, not blood. Now you're telling me that money from my family, my parents, went to your brother's business, and that's okay because it's family money? Maggie, you're overreacting." "I'm not overreacting. I'm finally seeing clearly. I was never family to you people. I was the help. I was free labor, and my parents' money was just another resource for you to use however you wanted." Bob took a step toward me. "Maggie, please, let's talk about this calmly. I'm done talking calmly. I'm done with all of it. I want a divorce." The words came out before I'd fully thought them through. But the moment I said them, I knew they were true. "A divorce? Maggie, come on. Don't be ridiculous. Mom just died." "You're emotional." "Emotional? You think this is about emotion? This is about 15 years of my life that I gave to your family. 15 years where I was treated like a servant. And now I find out you've been stealing from my parents. Yes, Bob, I want a divorce." I turned and walked to our bedroom, slammed the door, and for the first time in 15 years, I cried, really cried. Not quiet tears, big, gulping sobs that shook my whole body. The next morning, I called my parents. "Dad, I need to tell you something." I told him everything. The will, the bank accounts, Tom's business, all of it. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then I heard my father's voice, tight with anger. "That son of a bitch." "Dad." "No, Maggie, that son of a bitch. I'm getting in the car right now. Your mother and I are coming over." "Dad, you don't have to." "Yes, we do. You're our daughter. This ends today." My parents arrived 2 hours later. My father walked into that house with a look on his face I'd never seen before. My mother went straight to me and hugged me. "Oh, my baby girl. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." My father confronted Bob. "Robert, I want every penny of that money back, with interest." "Frank, let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You took money that we sent for our daughter and our granddaughter, and you used it for your own purposes. That's theft. And if you don't make it right, I'll be talking to a lawyer about pressing charges." Bob's face went white. "Frank, please, let's not..." "Start writing down account numbers. I want to see where that money went. Every transaction. Every dollar. Now." I saw a divorce attorney the next week. Her name was Patricia Rodriguez, and she was in her 50s, sharp as a tack, and didn't sugarcoat anything. "Mrs. Henderson, based on what you've told me, you have grounds for both divorce and a substantial financial claim. The money your parents sent was given for a specific purpose, your daughter's care, and to assist with caregiving expenses. Your husband using it for other purposes without your knowledge or consent is a serious matter. Can I get it back? We can certainly try. We'll also be pursuing equitable distribution of marital assets. The house, even though it was willed to Tom, was the marital residence for 15 years. You have a claim to a portion of its value. We'll also be calculating the value of 15 years of caregiving services. Calculating the value? Yes. Ha! You provided full-time caregiving to your mother-in-law for 15 years. If the family had hired a professional caregiver, which is what you were, the cost would have been substantial. We're going to calculate what that would have cost and include it in our settlement demand. For the first time in weeks, I felt a small spark of hope. The divorce process took 8 months. It was ugly. Bob's attorney tried to argue that I'd lived rent-free and that my caregiving was part of my duties as a family member. My attorney, Patricia, destroyed that argument. If Mrs. Henderson was family, why did Eleanor Henderson's will specifically exclude her and state she was not a blood relative? You can't have it both ways. Either she was family and deserved to inherit, or she was a caregiver who deserved to be paid. The Hendersons chose option A when it benefited them and option B when it didn't. That's not how this works. In the end, we reached a settlement. I got 30% of the house value, about $60,000, since the house was worth roughly $200,000. I got the full $150,000 back that my parents had sent, with interest. Total, about $170,000. And I got child support for Sarah until she turned 18, double over a month. Total settlement, roughly $230,000, paid out over time. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't everything I deserved, but it was something. The divorce was finalized in June of 2004. I took Sarah and moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment in a suburb outside Rockford. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. Actually ours. That first night in the new apartment, Sarah and I ordered pizza and sat on the floor because we didn't have furniture yet. We ate pizza straight from the box and watched TV on an old set I'd bought at a yard sale. "Mom, are you okay?" Sarah asked. I looked at my 14-year-old daughter, this beautiful, smart, compassionate kid I'd somehow managed to raise despite everything. "Yeah, baby. I think I'm going to be okay. I think we both are." And for the first time in years, I actually believed it. About a year after the divorce, I was at the grocery store and ran into an old acquaintance, Linda, the same Linda who'd set me up with Bob all those years ago. "Maggie, oh my God, I heard about the divorce. I'm so sorry." "Thanks, Linda. I'm doing okay, actually. What are you doing now? Are you working?" "I actually just got my CNA certification, Certified Nursing Assistant. I'm working at a home care agency." Linda looked surprised. "After everything you went through with Eleanor, you're still doing caregiving?" I thought about that. "Yeah, but it's different now. I get paid. I work set hours. And when people thank me, it's because they appreciate what I'm doing, not because they expect it. It feels honest." "That's really great, Maggie. Good for you." And it was great. For the first time in my adult life, I was getting paid for the work I did. I was recognized as a professional. I had coworkers. I had boundaries. It felt like I could breathe again. Sarah graduated high school in 2007. She'd been accepted to nursing school at Northern Illinois University. I was so proud I thought my heart would burst. At her graduation party, which we held in our small apartment, Sarah gave a speech. "I want to thank my mom, Maggie. She's the strongest person I know. She taught me what it means to take care of people, to work hard, and to stand up for yourself when you need to. I'm going to be a nurse because of her." "Mom, I love you," I cried, happy tears this time. Over the next few years, I worked my way up in the home care industry. I became a supervisor, then a manager. In 2010, I took a big leap and started my own small home care agency, Sullivan Home Care Services. It was tiny at first, just me and 2 other caregivers, but we were good at what we did, and word spread. By 2015, I had 10 employees and more clients than we could handle. I was making a decent living, not rich, but comfortable. More importantly, I was doing something I was good at, something that mattered, and I was doing it on my own terms. Sarah graduated from nursing school in 2011 and got a job at Community Hospital in Rockford. She was so good at her job. Patients loved her. She had that rare combination of competence and compassion that makes a truly great nurse. We were close, Sarah and I. We'd gone through so much together, and we'd come out the other side. We had dinner together every Sunday night. We were a team. In 2019, Sarah came to Sunday dinner with news. "Mom, something weird happened at work today." "What's that?" "A new patient came in. Late-stage lung cancer. His name was on the chart, and I thought it sounded familiar. When I went into his room," she paused. "It was Dad." My hand froze on my fork. "Bob?" "Yeah, He's in pretty bad shape, Mom. He looked old, really old, and sick. Did he recognize you? Yeah. He started crying when he saw me. Said he'd been hoping to reach out to me but didn't know how. Asked how I was doing, how you were doing. I put my fork down. What did you tell him? I told him we were fine. Then I told my supervisor I couldn't be assigned to his case. Conflict of interest. And do you want to see him again? I mean, he's your father. Sarah looked at me with those clear blue eyes. He's biologically my father. But he wasn't really a dad, you know? I watched him let you be treated like garbage for 15 years. I watched him choose everyone else over us. Over and over. So no, Mom, I don't want a relationship with him. And I requested to not be on his case. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. That's when Bob called me, about 2 weeks after Sarah saw him at the hospital. The phone call I told you about at the beginning of this story. Maggie, I know I have no right to ask, but I need help with medical expenses. And I told him no. After I hung up, I sat in my office for a long time, thinking about everything that had led to that moment. 15 years of caregiving. 15 years of being told I wasn't family. 15 years of my parents' money being funneled away. The divorce, building my life back from scratch. And now here was Bob, sick and alone, asking me for help. Part of me felt a small pang of sympathy. He was a human being, and he was suffering. But a bigger part of me remembered that girl I used to be. 26 years old, hopeful, trying so hard to be a good wife and daughter-in-law. That girl who poured her heart and soul into caring for someone who never once called her family. That girl deserved better, and so did the woman I'd become. A few months later, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Bob had passed away, alone, in a hospice facility. Tom had helped with some of the costs, but Tom's construction business had gone under in the 2008 recession, so there wasn't much he could do. I didn't go to the funeral. Sarah didn't either. We sent flowers because that felt like the right thing to do, but we didn't go. Some people probably thought we were cold, but we weren't being cold. We were being honest. Bob had never really been family to us, not in the way that mattered. I'm 52 now. It's been 20 years since my divorce, 35 years since I married Bob, and 15 years since I started my own business. My parents are in their 80s now. They're slowing down, having health issues of their own. And you know what? I help take care of them. I send caregivers from my company to their house 3 times a week. I visit them every weekend. I make sure they have everything they need. But it's different because they earned this care. They loved me. They supported me. They never once made me feel like I was just the help. That's the thing I learned through all of this. Caregiving can be an act of love, or it can be exploitation. The difference is in how you're treated. If you're told you're family but then excluded when it matters, if you're expected to sacrifice everything but given nothing in return, if your labor is demanded but never appreciated, that's not family. That's not love. That's just using someone. Sarah is 33 now. She's a charge nurse at community hospital. She's engaged to a wonderful guy named David who treats her like she hung the moon. They're getting married next summer, and I'm going to walk her down the aisle because her father isn't here and wouldn't have deserved that honor anyway. My business is thriving. I have 20 employees now. We provide care to over 50 clients in the Rockford area. I make sure my employees are paid fairly, given reasonable hours, and treated with respect because I know what it's like to do this work without any of those things. Every now and then, one of my clients or their family members will say to me, "Maggie, you're a saint for doing this work." And I always tell them the same thing. I'm a professional, and this is my job, which I do well, and which I get paid for. There's a difference. Because there is a difference. And I learned that difference the hard way. So that's my story. 35 years compressed into one long conversation. If you're reading this or listening to this, and you see yourself in any part of my story, let me tell you something. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. You are not required to sacrifice your entire life for people who won't even acknowledge your worth. And if someone calls you family but treats you like the help, they're lying. To you and to themselves. Real family doesn't work that way. Real love doesn't work that way. You deserve better. You deserve to be seen, valued, and appreciated for what you do. And if you're not getting that, it's okay to walk away. It's okay to choose yourself. I did, and it saved my life. Thanks for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there who needs to hear it. Take care of yourselves, everyone. And remember, caregiving is noble work, but only when it's freely given and genuinely appreciated. Otherwise, it's just slavery with a prettier name. My name is Maggie Sullivan, and that's my story.